something in his hands. Looks like knives.
Drop your weapon! I repeat, drop your weapon! Drop your weapon! Drop them!
Those aren't weapons, those are his hands! Please, we know him.
All right, cuff him.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to this very special breaking news live right now. Well, is it very special? We'll see. We have reporting to you the glorious news that Donald Trump is now the official nominee for the Republican Party of the president, for the president of the United States, ladies and gentlemen. This is what they've done. They've indicted the guy. They've indicted the guy. Here we go. Throw the flag. They've indicted the guy. They did it. They gone done it. They Leroy Jenkins, Kool-Aid Man, indicted Donald Trump. Here we go. Donald Trump has been indicted by a jury, grand jury, inside of Manhattan. Let me read for you and let's get the dimensions right here, ladies and gentlemen, on screen. Let me read for you what the New York Times is reporting right now at this very second, updated 2 minutes ago. Grand jury votes to indict Donald Trump in New York. Live updates. Mr. Trump will be the first former president to be faced criminal charges. Precise charges are not yet known, but the case focuses on the hush money payments to a porn star during his 2016 presidential campaign. Here's what the New York Times is saying. The unprecedented case against Trump will have wide-ranging implications. A Manhattan grand jury has voted to indict Donald Trump on Thursday for his role paying hush money to a porn star. According to 5 people with knowledge of the matter, a historic development shake up 2024 presidential race forever mark him as the nation's first former president to face criminal charges, former or sitting. An indictment would likely be announced in the coming days. By then, prosecutors working for the district attorney Alvin Bragg will have asked Trump to surrender and to face arraignment, charges that will remain unknown for now. So there are updates here inside of this breaking news story from the Times. This is where all of the reporting comes from. Over here from Breitbart, let's go swing over to the other side here. New York grand jury indicts Donald Trump. We'd like to be balanced. This is what Breitbart is saying. Grand jury in New York indicted former President Donald Trump. According to emerging reports, they cite the New York Times. This is where all of the reporting comes from. And they are saying that the reactions have been absolutely wild all across the political spectrum. Here's Fox News reporting, ladies and gentlemen.
News alert here. We have just gotten word former President Donald Trump has been indicted by a grand jury in New York. Trump was under investigation by the DA's office for his alleged hush money payment to adult film star Stormy Daniels during the 2016 campaign. So as we await more information, Fox News has just learned this from 2 law enforcement sources that Trump has been indicted. Perhaps I can go around the table. Katie, I'll start with you first.
Well, the president said 2 weeks ago that this was going to happen eventually. He thought it would happen last Tuesday. The grand jury then did not convene for 2 days in a row. And the grand jury was out of town, allegedly, for a month as of yesterday. So this is quite interesting to hear after they were sent home for the month. Now, leading up to this, there was a lot of talk about whether this would even happen, considering Alvin Bragg, who is the Manhattan district attorney who is looking into bringing these charges, would be able to, just given how long it's been since this incident. And it was allegedly a misdemeanor charge. It's never been happened in the history of the New York Attorney's Office before. And there's been a lot of controversy about whether it was appropriate, given the president is a presidential candidate, again, and whether it was politically motivated as a result of this district attorney not having the authority to bring it. Also, of course, there are big questions about the district attorney's priorities when it comes to his obligations in New York to put hardened criminals who are carrying out very violent crimes in the city behind bars, when now he is focused on President Trump. But here we are with this. The president said it was going to happen. So now there are big questions about how this will go down, whether the president will come to New York to be fingerprinted, to take the charges in person. and what that will look like with Secret Service and NYPD, and whether there will be a mugshot and how that will be handled.
I think that's important to ask at this point, Jesse. We don't exactly know how this will go down, but we do know that the indictment would not be announced until it was stamped. The DA's office would then notify an attorney for the former president that he would then be indicted. At that point, the president is then free to make the information public himself. We are reporting this as we've learned it from 2 law enforcement officials. We'll see if we hear anything from the former president as the moments go on here. Will he be arrested? Would there be any sort of mugshot taken? Will he appear in court? Those are questions that we do not have answers to at this moment.
So here is Eric Trump tweeting or truthing just seconds ago, 5 minutes ago. This is third world prosecutorial misconduct. This is opportunistic targeting of a political opponent in a campaign year. Eric Trump going in hard on the angle that what they were trying to do is to take out a Republican presidential candidate. You know, they will definitely get the candidate they want if they prevent all the people they don't want to run from running by putting them in prison. So this is what Eric Trump is saying. Ronna McDaniel saying, when our justice system is weaponized as a political tool, it endangers all of us. This blatant abuse of power from the DA, focus on political vengeance instead of keeping people safe. That is the chairwoman of the RNC. Technofog, one of our favorite intel sites, saying a felony indictment of Donald Trump, insanely pro-criminal Manhattan DA who demanded his prosecutors reduce charges for violent offenders, is now prioritizing law and order. What a transformation! Not just prioritizing law and order. Manhattan DA, Soros-funded Alvin Bragg, is raising a misdemeanor charge to a felony, something that he actually doesn't have the right to do because this is a federal elections issue that the FEC decided to turn down, that Biden's Justice Department decided to turn down, that the FBI decided to turn down. These are all institutions run by libs that said there's no way that we could charge Donald Trump for this. But Leroy Jenkins, Alvin Bragg promised he would charge Donald Trump, and hot damn, he's going to
A lot of people are wondering, whoever has this job, are they going to convict Donald Trump?
Look, that is the number one issue. I'm the candidate in the race who has the experience with Donald Trump. I was the chief deputy in the attorney general's office. We sued the Trump administration over 100 times.
And you believe it should happen?
I believe we have to hold them accountable.
So an incredible photo here of Alvin Bragg at this very, very moment in his reaction.
Through all of that opposition, Donald J. Trump is now president of the United States. President Obama is the ex-president. And Mr. Trump, for the moment, steps away.
Because what you're doing here is, and there's a really special reason why that lib is screaming, because what you're doing here is you're all but guaranteeing that Donald Trump is going to become the nominee for the president of the United States for the Republican Party. I mean, that's also the breaking news here. You already saw Donald Trump's polls surge after they announced this indictment. You see a piece of breaking news here on your screen. This breaking news states that the case is all a fraud. This is a letter that is from Michael Cohen's lawyers to the FEC, right there, via the FEC, saying that all of this is garbage, that Donald Trump never paid anyone anything. Donald Trump has no knowledge of any of this ever happening, that Michael Cohen did it himself. This is the bombshell exculpatory evidence that you thought would have sunk this entire thing. But here we are. We don't have any law and order in this country. There is no more law and order, even in spite of the fact that Michael Cohen's former legal advisor went and testified against him and said, don't trust this guy, he's a liar.
I'm the one who decided to do this. A lot of people cautioned me against it because I had nothing to gain. The only thing I'm doing is trying to tell the truth to the grand jurors, because I read all these lies in the media that are being promoted by one side. If you see the full picture, you know, listen, if they want to go after Donald Trump and they have solid evidence, so be it. But Michael Cohen is far from solid evidence. This guy, by any prosecutor's standard, and I used to be deputy chief of the criminal division in the Southern District of New York, I wouldn't have touched a guy like Michael Cohen, especially if he's a convicted perjurer. Not to mention, as I said, the 50 to 100 lies he told us that are in those 330 emails.
So what we're looking at here is we're looking at a situation where Democrats are simply going to indict Donald Trump for the headline. Now, what does an indictment mean? An indictment just simply means that the charges that the DA wishes to bring can go forward. That's all. It doesn't mean that Donald Trump is guilty of anything. It means that the trial can go forward, as Donald Trump's attorney, Alina Habba, illustrated on the steps of the New York court earlier this week.
President Trump and possibly future President Trump has been completely unfairly treated. This is a politicization of our justice system, and I think it's a frightening time for our country, frankly. If Michael Cohen is a key witness, as we're hearing, if they're getting debunked testimony from other people, this is speaking for itself, and I hope that everybody's eyes are open. It would be a very, very grave mistake for them to indict President Trump.
You talk to Mr. Trump every day, maybe multiple times a day. How does he feel? What is he telling you about the DA's case?
I think this is another day for the president, and I think that's the important thing to take away from this. This is something that has been happening since he walked down the escalator at Trump Tower in 2015 and 2016 when he was running and won. It is the way his life has turned, unfortunately, and he's given up a lot for this country. He had a great life before, I'll tell you that, and he's willing to continue to sacrifice, and I think that speaks volumes to his character and how much he loves this country.
So according to Jack Posobiec at the White House, there are wine mom vibes breaking out with cringe Jean-Pierre dancing around the White House right now, celebrating this. Will they be celebrating when Donald Trump is inaugurated as the 47th president of the United States? How does that work? Does he get 45 and 47? Does he just go back to 45? I'm confused. Somebody, maybe a scholar, can explain that to me. But Donald Trump explained to his inner circle that he wants to be handcuffed. There's part of me that thinks that maybe Donald Trump wants this moment. Donald Trump stating that he wishes to be handcuffed. He wants this to be public. He wants the photo op. What do you think? Let me know in the comment section. Listen to this.
We're learning that the Manhattan DA's office has asked for a meeting with law enforcement ahead of a potential Trump indictment. This is coming to Fox News from a source in the courts. The meeting, which was requested yesterday and has not been set yet, is to discuss logistics for sometime next week, which would mean that they are anticipating an indictment next week. The same source who's familiar with the planning said they will go over security preparations in and around the courthouse in Lower Manhattan. Secret Service will take the lead in what they will allow or will not allow. The source cautioned, mentioning, for instance, that the decision to handcuff the president, a former president, or not, they will.
So Donald Trump has said that he wants to be handcuffed. Chris Rock has said that you're going to turn him into Tupac. Chris Rock has told an audience, including Nancy Pelosi, that you're going to turn Donald Trump into Tupac. So even though they have exculpatory evidence that this entire case is a fraud, they've brought now this indictment against Trump. My full statement on the unprecedented scam indictment of President Trump. They're rolling in right now. This is from Elise Stefanik. Elise Stefanik is number 3 in the House in power for the Republican conference. House Republican Conference Chair, Elise Stefanik, statement on the unprecedented scam indictment. That's what she's saying, scam indictment. This is a election interference, corrupt socialist district attorney Alvin Bragg political witch hunt, dark day for America. Radical left will stop at nothing to persecute Joe Biden's chief political opponent ahead of the 2024 election. That's exactly right. Donald Trump, 75 million votes, and they are going after every single one of them. They're going after every single one. Now, it's not just Donald Trump's attorneys, and it's not just individuals of the right that are talking about how absurd this is. Our favorite lawyer on Fox News, Jonathan Turley, who is a left-winger, as far as we know. He's a professor at Georgetown Law. He's just a very common-sense, old-style Democrat that, judges the rule of law by the letter of the law. He's saying this is absolutely outrageous. You are just you're burning the nation asunder by doing it.
And it's really historic, this moment that we're facing.
It is. It's historic. It's not necessarily good history that is being made. It's not that I oppose the indictment of a former president. I don't even oppose the indictment of a sitting president on constitutional basis. But this indictment, if it is reportedly following the theories that we've been talking about, is political. It's a raw political prosecution. Now, the indictment may come out with a crime that none of us have heard of, but for many months, this bootstrapping theory has been put out there. This idea that you could take a misdemeanor under New York law that has expired, that has a 2-year statute of limitations, and revive it by connecting it to a federal crime, in this case, the federal election violation. Now, there's a host of problems with that. First of all, it's a federal crime the Department of Justice chose not to prosecute. Bragg's own predecessor declined to prosecute. But he is attempting to bootstrap that federal crime into a state case. And if that is the basis for the indictment, I think it's rather outrageous. I think it's legally pathetic.
Legally pathetic. Those are very, very strong words from Jonathan Turley. Jonathan Turley, again, not a red-hatted MAGA supporter, saying that this is pathetic what they are doing. Now, we wish to break down this case and what we are learning about it right now. Of course, we are in a breaking news environment here, but Donald Trump has just issued a statement on this. Ladies and gentlemen, here it is on your screen. Trump's statement. This was released seconds ago, this very minute, actually. Donald Trump, 45th President of the United States, statement. So let's read the first top half of this. Political persecution, election interference, highest level in history. From the time I came down the golden escalator, and guys, can we make sure that we get this statement big on screen? From the time that I came down the escalator, golden escalator at Trump Tower, and even before I was sworn in as your president of the United States, the radical left Democrats, the enemy of hardworking men and women in this country, have been engaged in a witch hunt to destroy Make America Great Again movement. You remember, just like I do, Russia, 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 Mueller hoax, so on. The Democrats have lied, cheated, and stolen in their obsession with trying to get Trump, and now they've done the unthinkable. They've incited the completely innocent person in an act of blatant election interference, so they are going hard on the election interference line. Good for them. That is true. Never before in the nation's history has this been done. Democrats have cheated countless times over the decades, including spying on my campaign. The Manhattan Alvin Bragg DA has been handpicked and funded by George Soros. Rather than stopping the unprecedented crime wave taking over New York City, he's doing Joe Biden's dirty work by ignoring murders, burglaries, and assaults, focused on how Bragg spends his time. I believe this witch hunt will backfire massively on Joe Biden. American people realize exactly what the radical left Democrats are doing here. Everyone can see it. Our movement, our party, united strong. We will defeat these crooked Democrats and make America great again. That is the full reading of Donald Trump's statement from seconds ago. So that's what Donald Trump is saying. They're going to go in hard on the tact here that this is election interference, and they'd have every single right to do that. They'd have every single right to do that. Now, ladies and gentlemen, let's move over here. Let's move over here to and guys, when I say make it big, I mean make me smaller on screen. Pop that. There you go. Okay, good. That's what I mean. So, okay, let's pop over here and talk about what's actually happening. Okay, so a nuisance lawsuit, and we're going to cover this really fast. A nuisance lawsuit is what happens to famous celebrities when nuisances come around. Annoying people typically come around, and if Tom Cruise or Brad Pitt get into a fender bender in the parking lot with you in Starbucks and you spill your coffee, you're going to sue them for $1 million. That's called a nuisance lawsuit. Donald Trump was in a nuisance lawsuit. This is something very normal for celebrities with a lady. This is the lady. She hired Michael Avenatti to defend her, and she lost in court. She had to pay Donald Trump $300,000 after losing a defamation case. So, what is the core of this case? They are saying that Donald Trump settling a nuisance lawsuit, which is Donald Trump using private money. Now, he didn't even use private money. According to this letter from Michael Cohen used his private money, which makes a lot of sense because Michael Cohen's a lawyer, and he's going to have to deal with this nuisance lawsuit. How many of these did Michael Cohen settle for Donald Trump? Who knows? Donald Trump looks at you wrong inside of an elevator, and then you can sue him. That's how it works for rich and famous people. So, Michael Cohen settles this case. He says, here's some money, go away. That's what lawyers do. Donald Trump knows nothing about it. Donald Trump just pays the legal fee. Now, what they're saying is that that is a contribution for his campaign. That's what they're trying to manufacture here. ALX, give me that great Stephen Miller clip from Tucker the other night talking about this. What they're trying to do is actually reverse all campaign law forever. Because what they're doing is they are saying now that every payment that comes from you as an individual could be seen as a campaign payment. So if you buy someone a latte, if you buy someone a slushie at 7-Eleven, that's now seen as a campaign contribution because that could somehow help effectuate your campaign. This case is so weak, it's so cobbled together, it's so statuteless that the Kool-Aid Man, Fat Alvin, and the Chipmunks in Manhattan are left to bring it when Joe Biden's own FEC, Joe Biden's own DOJ, Joe Biden's own FBI, when the state level attorney, none of these people have been able to bring this charge because they all said it is meritless. The people who actually could bring this charge, the FEC, have decided to not bring this charge. Ladies and gentlemen, that's where this stems from. So what they're going to say is that this lady, who is represented by this guy who's now serving 14 years in federal penitentiary, that this somehow constitutes a campaign finance violation. Now, there are very, very smart individuals who exist in the world. I don't consider myself one of them. Stephen Miller is one of them. He's the person who, of course, crafted many, many great policies for Donald Trump, including Donald Trump's immigration policy. Stephen Miller was on Tucker Carlson the other night arguing justice.
The radical left prosecutor, Alvin Bragg, in Manhattan, is having a struggle, which frankly is unheard of, getting his grand jury across the finish line to achieve the indictment that he's been determined to achieve, and that the progressive power structures in this country have been trying to achieve now for 7 years. We know that there's been explosive revelations recently, documents that have come out, including a letter from Michael Cohen disavowing and denying all the things that he's now testified to. But let's remember, at the heart of this lie of a case is a monstrous perversion of federal law by the imperial prosecutor in Manhattan. Now, I've worked in Washington for many years, and they drill one thing into your head over and over and over again. Thou shalt not use campaign funds for a personal, private, familiar, or business matter. You shall not. It is the red line in Washington. The imperial prosecutor, and I don't think enough people appreciate this, in Manhattan, his whole case is that Donald Trump was obligated under federal law to use campaign funds to settle a private dispute, turning all of campaign law for 300 million Americans and their whole political system on its head. It is such a brazen perversion, violation, subversion of federal law. It's astonishing it's been allowed to go on this far, particularly because a local DA in Manhattan who won his primary with 80,000 votes does not have authority to rewrite federal election law for the entire United States of America. And now he's saying he's even going to defy the subpoena from Jim Jordan, James Comer, and Brian Steil, 3 committee chairmen in Congress.
I mean, it's hard to really overstate exactly how egregious this is legally and how we are tearing very much at the fabric and the soul of the nation here. You just can't go back now. You can't go back. And now the Republican Party will rightfully demand that Joe Biden be indicted. Why not indict Joe Biden? So Joe Biden tried to sell American oil to China. Why not go to Texas, Midland, Texas? Let's go to R+90 county. Let's go to that district attorney in Midland, Texas, and let's indict Joe Biden for trying to sell oil to China. That is like an obvious next step. And then you put Joe Biden on trial. And then you see. Boy, that'll be special. Ladies and gentlemen, Make America Great Again, Inc. This is the PAC that is that is not allowed to coordinate with Donald Trump's campaign, but via election law represents Trump. This is the pro-Trump, official pro-Trump super PAC. This is not an indictment of a crime. There was no crime. Instead, this is an indictment of a failed nation. He will be reelected in the greatest landslide in American history. Together, we will make America great again. That is Taylor Bundowich, CEO of Make America Great Again. So, yeah. There you go, baby. There you go. You do have statutes of limitations. It's a remarkable how they're even able to get this done. This is, of course, they're trying to say that this misdemeanor is a felony. But no matter what they're trying to charge it as, misdemeanor or felony, this is going to have, you're going to have real problems because you have statutes of limitations here. This happened in 2016. Misdemeanor statute of limitations 2 years. Felony statute of limitations 5 years. Turley makes this point.
So it's possible that this could go to trial, but it's going to have serious problems on appeal. I think that I'm not even convinced that Bragg has not run out of time. I think there are some very significant questions whether the statute of limitations has already run on these claims.
Because the statute of limitations is what, 5 years?
Well, it's 2 years on the misdemeanor. What he's trying to do is to fold in the federal violation to kick this up to a felony and get that 5-year period. That linkage itself could be challenged, but I'm not even sure he's moving within 5 years. This occurred 7 years ago.
So this occurred 7 years ago. Jonathan Turley, again, a sober-minded legal professional, saying, what the hell are they doing here? Saying this is farcical. Saying this is an embarrassment to the legal system. And now you're setting the precedent. The attorney generals and the prosecutors inside of Mississippi and Texas, Alabama, Florida, you're going to go after the Bidens. I want to find, okay, Hillary Clinton did a lot of business in Haiti. She traveled through Florida to do that. Time to prosecute Hillary. You don't understand what you're going to open up here, and Democrats always do this. Remember, it was Harry Reid that killed the filibuster rule. And Harry Reid killed that filibuster rule for judges so that they could try and ram through an Obama judge at the very end of his life. And what ended up happening? Mitch McConnell, not fans of Mitch, you know that, but Mitch McConnell said, you are going to regret this. And what did you get? What did you get in return? A Trump judiciary, the greatest conservative Supreme Court in American history. That's what you ended up getting. Democrats always do this, but there's a problem to this pendulum swinging. The problem is eventually the pendulum breaks. It snaps. So one side's going to want this, and then every single president expect them to be indicted, expect them to be impeached. Because once you create that bloodlust, once the shark smells that blood, politics is a war zone, that's what you're going to get. And that's what you get in third world dictatorships. This is so very bad for our country. Tucker Carlson saying it better than I ever could, but really wrapping it up in his monologue 2 days ago. Check it out.
Another day of rumors and thinly sourced news stories. Ooh, what's new? These about when and where Donald Trump will be arrested, fingerprinted, and photographed against a cinder block wall for his mugshot. How much of this is true? Once again, we cannot say. Here's what we know. A Soros-funded prosecutor in New York, a man who ran on the promise to indict Trump, seems to be working hard to indict Trump, indicting him for a crime that no one even pretends is a crime, including the federal agency that has already investigated it and declared it not a crime. So in Manhattan tomorrow, what will certainly be an overwhelmingly liberal grand jury will meet, and unless something unexpected happens, Democrats will have taken the unprecedented step of using a corrupt justice system to take out the frontrunner in the Republican presidential field in a presidential race. And if that happens, America will never be the same. You've got to hope that for the sake of the country, the Biden White House, which will be running against Trump, will put the country above partisanship and stop this. That Merrick Garland at DOJ will issue a very public statement saying that this is wrong, which it is, and therefore preserve for our grandchildren our justice system. As of tonight, that doesn't seem to be happening.
Very wrong. So wrong. Everyone inside of the Republican field, in fact, including some people who really don't like Donald Trump and who hate Donald Trump, have been straight up saying that this is, of course, wrong, and this is not going to be something that they support. We can't find a single person who considers running for president in 2024 as a Republican who has stood up for the left, the Manhattan DA, including but not limited to people who have openly agitated and advocated against Donald Trump. His former vice president, Mike Pence, saying this.
I'm taken aback at the idea of indicting a former president of the United States at a time when there's a crime wave in New York City. That the fact that the Manhattan DA thinks that indicting President Trump is his top priority, I think, just tells you everything you need to know about the radical left in this country. The last 5 years, Democrats have been dismantling tough criminal justice in the city of New York. Families are paying the price, and yet this is what we get. It just feels like a politically charged prosecution here.
So it is, in fact, a politically charged prosecution here. This is the breaking news, ladies and gentlemen. Donald Trump has been indicted and will, in the coming days, be fingerprinted, will, in the coming days, have to face off against the two tiers of justice. according to Kash Patel here on Truth Social, Donald Trump will not bend the knee. By leading us through the anarchy of injustice, he will create justice for all. Become number 47. That is what Kash Patel, one of the advisors to Donald Trump, is saying on Truth Social. So, ladies and gentlemen, we're seeing all of the responses come in right now from all around the country. A lot of people, quite frankly, shocked by this, and a lot of people, quite frankly, enraged by this. This is what Dan Scavino has posted on Truth Social. Just a second, we're loading it up. This is Donald Trump's digital advisor and sort of the voice of Donald Trump online. He has just gone up with a video, and that video is going to be played for you right now.
The test of a man is how much he will bear for a cause which he knows to be right. How long will he stand in the depths of despair? How much will he suffer and fight? There are many to serve when the victory is near, and few are the hurts to be borne. But it calls for a leader of courage to cheer the men in a battle forlorn. It is the way you hold out against odds that are great that proves what your courage is worth. It is the way that you stand to the bruises of fate that shows up your stature and girth. And victory is nothing but proof of your skill, veneered with a glory that's thin. Unless it is a proof of unfaltering will, and unless you have suffered to win.
An old tome there, an old rhyme from about the toils and the being in the arena, sort of a Roosevelt style, like toiling and striving to win. That is what Dan Scavino is stating. Once again, Republicans are coming to the side of Donald Trump. I believe that what they've done here is all but assure him the Republican nomination here, unless something drastically changes, because there is magic to Donald Trump, which is that somehow this New York billionaire who owns skyscrapers can connect with the common man, with the working man. Maybe it's because Donald Trump built so much by himself, but the working man, the individual, they feel for Donald Trump. They connect with Donald Trump. They are one with Donald Trump. And this is like very, very important stuff. And these are the kind of things that really animate people towards Donald Trump, because the more you attack him and the more he is unfairly attacked, the more people see that Donald Trump's just sort of standing in the gap for them. What January 6th and a lot of these moments prove to us, and Nashville, for instance, is that these people just don't care about our lives. They don't care about the lives of regular Americans, middle Americans, forgotten Americans, rural Americans, Christian Americans. Have you seen what the White House said today? Karine Jean-Pierre said that trans people are being attacked. What world do you live in, lady? It is a sick, blackened darkness inside of their souls, and we can feel it as a spiritual movement. We feel it. And so that is why it is indefensible. Not even the people who are running against Donald Trump, the announced candidate, right? So Mike Pence hasn't announced. DeSantis hasn't announced. Vivek Ramaswamy has announced, and Vivek had this to say about the persecution of Donald Trump. This is a guy who's running against him.
I'm Vivek Ramaswamy, and I'm running for president of the United States. Earlier today, my competitor in this race, Donald Trump, was criminally indicted in a politically motivated prosecution. This is wrong. This is dangerous. We're skating on thin ice as a country right now. I think we may be heading on our way to a national divorce. I'm running for president because I care about a national revival instead, but this is a step in the wrong direction. You don't know what? Alvin Bragg, he ran on a campaign, a political campaign for his position, pledging to investigate Donald Trump. You don't know what he did today? He delivered on a campaign promise. That is not how our justice system is supposed to work. Justice is supposed to be impartial. If this had been anybody else other than Donald Trump, on this set of facts, it would have been charged as a misdemeanor at most, if at all. Yet what we see right now is a ruling party in our country that will stop at nothing, even using police force to arrest its political opponents. We're not some banana republic, guys. We are the United States of America. We're supposed to be that shining city on a hill for the rest of the world that still gives hope to the free world as we know it. And yet look at what we have become today. This is not the America that I know. And you know what? You do have a constitutional right to protest this decision if you want to. The only ask I will make is do it peacefully and do it lawfully if that's the decision you make. Because, again, we're in dangerous times today. I care about having one country left at the end of this. And if Alvin Bragg or even Joe Biden wants to do something, let alone the rest of this Republican field, we can all unite to say that even if we're running against Donald Trump, we at least want to let the voters decide who gets to be the next president rather than some Javert-style prosecutor sitting in New York City. That is not the country I know. That is not the country that my parents came to. That is not the country that we pledge allegiance to. That is not the United States.
So that's Vivek Ramaswamy. Way to go, Vivek. He's a friend of the program. He's been on our program a couple times. I like Vivek. And he's a competitor with Donald Trump right now, and he released that instantly. Way to go, Vivek, standing strong with Trump. Obviously, you heard there also from Mike Pence, and now you are hearing statements from all across social media. What is the response on Capitol Hill, the Republican-controlled Capitol Hill? We go to Capitol Hill for a breaking report here from Chad Peargrim. This was just aired moments ago. Hot damn, man. I mean, what you're going to have here is obviously, and let me just set the stage here, you're going to have congressional inquiry into all of this. Alvin Bragg is clearly like rigging, manipulating, and interfering in a federal election. Congress oversees those. That's up to Congress, actually. And so these are really important issues, and they're going to be constitutional issues. And I think you're going to see judges actually get to rule on this.
Brett, I'm going to start with just a one-word statement from Jim Jordan, the chair of the Judiciary Committee, and he says that this is, quote, outrageous. That's what the press release said. That's the only word on the statement, just says outrageous. We've also heard from Andy Biggs, Republican from Arizona, somebody who has been a staunch defender of the former president. He says that this is Trump derangement syndrome. Meantime, on the other side of the aisle, you have Pete Aguilar. He's the chair of the House Democratic Caucus, and he says it's long overdue for the American people to see him be held accountable. Let's bring him to justice. Tom Tillis, Republican senator from North Carolina, says that this indictment doesn't pass the smell test. And then Adam Schiff, the former chairman of the Intelligence Committee, also he was the lead impeachment manager during the first impeachment trial. He says that this is deeply and fundamentally necessary to preserve the rule of law. Now, tomorrow was the deadline for these three House committee chairs. I mentioned Jim Jordan. We also had Brian Stile. He's the chair of the House Administration Committee, which has jurisdiction over federal elections, and also James Comer, Republican of Kentucky, who deals with the Oversight Committee. They had another deadline for tomorrow to get information from Alvin Bragg. They want to know what money is being spent on this investigation. They also want to know if he's been talking to the Justice Department. They want to understand the scope. They're saying, look, you're a local DA in one borough in Manhattan, New York. How can you deal with a former president of the United States and somebody who is a candidate for president in 2024? In reaching out in the past 30, 40 minutes here, I'm told here on Capitol Hill with some senior sources on the Republican side of the aisle that they had no heads up. One term that was used on me is that they were digesting this in real time. And I also reached out to a senior Democrat on the other side of the aisle, and they said they were not going to comment on this until they actually saw official paperwork from the DA. So Democrats, to some degree, and we saw this a couple of weeks ago, Brett, when there was this, swirl, this conjecture that it was imminent that there was going to be an indictment here. The Democrats were more than happy just to kind of sit this out and let Republicans go to bat for the president. They were kind of viewing this from a political lens or through a political lens and say, look, if you guys want to go and defend former President Trump, somebody who's been through 2 impeachment trials, the riot, all these other things here, go do it. We're just going to sit that out and let the American people decide that. So the reaction coming in here on Capitol Hill. I should note that just a couple of hours ago, this was the final session for 2 weeks. We're on the Easter Passover recess here, and the Capitol is basically a ghost town. After about 3:30, 4 o'clock, there's nobody here. That would be a different scene. You would have press conferences, people chasing, reporters chasing members up and down the hall, but nobody is here. Everybody has gone home. They went to the airport. They got on the train. And so all this reaction is kind of delayed. It's going to be a slow reaction here from Capitol Hill because nobody is on Capitol Hill right now, Brett.
Yeah, reporters like Chad up on Capitol Hill call that the jailbreak when all the congressmen and senators run out of Capitol Hill for the recess, and it's a mass exodus, Chad. But just moments ago, Byron Donalds, congressman from Florida, put out today's political indictment of former President Trump is a dark day in American history and a threat to our republic by Alvin Bragg and the Democratic Party machine. It's unfathomable to me that this could happen in America. This is political persecution that must not stand. If Congress, quickly, Chad, is looking at this already, how does that factor into what we may be experiencing now? You know, anytime Congress, it's not usual to go into the affairs of a district attorney, and yet they were already going down that road. But now with this indictment, does it speed it up? What happens?
That's unclear, and that's one of the things I was trying to find out. I don't think they really know how to react. You know, as I said, that was the deadline. You can bet your bottom dollar that those Republicans will say, look, you know, we think this is a problem to go down this road. But, you know, Alvin Bragg, there were kind of two volleys, Wimbledon-esque back and forth between the House committee chairs and Alvin Bragg over the past 7-8 days. And Alvin Bragg saying, look, you don't have jurisdiction here. It is inappropriate. It is improper for you to get involved in a criminal investigation that I'm conducting in New York City. Historically, Congress has stayed out of those matters, and that's why Alvin Bragg said that this was so extraordinary. You had people like Jamie Raskin, the Democrat from Maryland, who's the top Democrat on the Oversight Committee, saying as much and kind of going to bat for Bragg. So it's unclear, and partly it's unclear, Brett, because this is such uncharted territory. We have never really been here before with an indicted president, let alone with, you know, a House committee or a trio of House committees investigating the DA at that point and wanting him to come and testify, telling him that he is not immune from a subpoena to appear for a deposition or at a hearing. And so nobody quite knows where to take this right now on Capitol Hill. It's going to take a little bit of time to let the salt kind of settle.
So nobody knows where to take this on Capitol Hill is what Chad says, with a absolutely spectacular report there from Capitol Hill. I know Chad. He's a great reporter. He's one of the last, like, actual straight-up reporters. He is bringing you some reactions from Capitol Hill. Outrageous is what Jim Jordan says. Jim Jordan is the one who said, hey, Alvin Bragg, you have absolutely no right to do this. We're going to look at what federal funds are being used there. What he's trying to do is then pin it back on the Biden White House. Now, we have sources that tell us that the Biden White House has obviously been shopping this around. They've been court shopping, right? So this is a normal thing that happens with corrupt politicians. You court shop. You try and see if you can get something into a Manhattan, like, bunch of wine moms, right? Chardonnay moms, super depressed, hopped up on Xanax, rattling around inside of their purse, Lululemon pants. These, like, unhappy, postmenopausal ladies from the Upper East Side, cat ladies. You get them all together. If you can get a jury that of those kind of people, well, then you can trick them. Essentially, and with a grand jury, all you need is 51%, right? You just have to get a plurality. You don't need to get all 12 jurors, right? You don't need to get a unanimous jury. This is just for the charges to move forward. That's how a grand jury works, not a trial jury. They're different. But this is what they did. They shopped. This is what the Biden administration did. It isn't just the radical left, says Donald Trump Jr. This is Donald Trump Jr.'s first tweet on this. Radicalizing the government to target their political enemies. This is them weaponizing the government to interfere in the 2024 presidential election to stop Trump. The only solutions is to shove it down their throats and put him back in the White House, is what Donald Trump Jr. is saying. Sean Davis, a friend of the show, the editor of The Federalist, saying if it's true that no one is above the law, Hillary Clinton would be breaking rocks in a prison yard right now. Ha ha, ha ha ha. Correct. 10 wars, millions killed, 1 Nobel Prize, 0 indictments. Well, isn't that just the perfect image right there? Don Jr. tears into prosecutor. This is communist level S. Furious Don Jr. tears into crazed weaponization of the entire federal government against political enemies of Donald Trump, as he is indicted for his for the hush money. Again, we have the evidence that Donald Trump literally knew nothing about this. Don Jr. slammed the federal government on his Rumble show, triggered with Donald Trump Jr. calling his father's indictment communist level S. Trump is the first former president to face criminal charges. Don Jr. called the indictment the weaponization of the entire federal government against the political enemies, warning viewers that they were next. This is what Don Jr. is saying right now on his show with Rumble. So this was just breaking right now. Oh, breaking news, by the way, you see at the top of this article, Gwyneth Paltrow got off. So Donald Trump gets indicted. Gwyneth Paltrow can go ram someone on a ski slope and, nothing. Okay, let Pepper Potts go back to Iron Man. This is what Donald Trump said. Let's be clear, folks. This is communist-level shit. This is the stuff that would make Mao, Stalin, Pol Pot, obviously naming communist leaders there, would make them blush. So flagrant, it's crazed. Radical lefties, Washington Post are out. They're saying not really based on facts. Well, I mean, he's right. There's been a lot of people inside of the corporate press, including the New York Times, who said that this is real weak beer. This is really weak stuff to bring against Donald Trump. Now, Donald Trump's attorney, Alina Habba, friend of the show, she was on just seconds ago, Fox. This is Donald Trump's attorney making, I think, a very, very good point here about the 2024 election and what this means.
We saw and I read the former president's statement, a lengthy statement here. What is, and you talked to him quite a bit, what is his state of mind about this?
Well, Brett, I think we all are aware that this is probably the most legally pathetic case that we've seen. And just knowing the facts as I know them, based on comments to the press by people like Michael Cohen, who they're resting their case on, I think his sentiments are that this is the result of him leading in the polls, doing incredibly well. He is the leading candidate, as we know. And when people are afraid of someone being successful and fixing the mess that our country is, they come after you. So this is the same thing that President Trump has been dealing with for years. And I can't say that he's surprised. I don't think that would be how I would describe his state of mind. I think that he's disappointed in what has become a sad day for our country.
So Alina Habba was on our show recently and said that Donald Trump is in a good mood. He is livened. It was just stated that this is like trying to kill an orca by throwing it into water. This is a great quote from Jonathan Turley. So this is what they're doing. This is what they're doing, ladies and gentlemen. This is where they're going to go. They're going to go this direction. Now, one of our favorite commentators, Kash Patel, was just on, I believe, John Solomon's show. And Kash had this to say. Kash is a former federal prosecutor and is, quite frankly, making the best points about this issue right now as it pertains to the federal justice system and what this means. Kash Patel, again, a DOJ prosecutor, also the man who ran the Pentagon for Donald Trump, and somebody who's very closely aligned with Donald Trump's re-election campaign here. Listen.
My initial reaction is that the New York grand jury and the New York prosecutors have violated the one thing about grand juries you're never supposed to violate, which is leaking to the public when it suits a political narrative, or leaking, period. They've been doing it forever. I know the latest has been confirmed by reporting from President Trump's lawyer that an indictment is pending, but the fashion in which it came out is just not how the criminal justice system is supposed to work. But here's what I think is going to happen. I think this guy probably took a page out of the prosecutors who were trying to get Trump in the Russia hoax investigation and Bob Mueller team, etc. You're probably going to find prosecutorial misconduct, suppression of exculpatory evidence, the same tape that we uncovered in so many of the other prior Get Trump prosecutions. And it's probably the main reason, as John highlighted, federal prosecutors at DOJ and the New York State Attorney General's office and the FEC all refused to bring charges on Trump for this same fact pattern.
Yeah. If Trump is not convicted, what type of blowback is that for Alvin Bragg, but also, I mean, Democrats who have been shouting, get Trump?
I think the blowback, we've already seen it. I think Democrats who are politically astute, and I'm not one of them, have said privately and some publicly, do not charge Donald Trump. Elon Musk said, a person that hates Donald Trump, that this will guarantee his election in 2024 in a landslide. I don't think you have to be a political tactician to figure this stuff out. And so now you're in the arena. And President Trump, as he has always done masterfully, is able to put out the truth and put on display a two-tier system of justice, which so many Americans didn't think used to exist.
So you are now, of course, watching the responses roll in from some people that are associated very strongly with Donald Trump, like Kash Patel, making, of course, a perfect case there that what you're doing here is you're just absolutely shredding the law. Of course, you are guaranteeing that people like Hillary Clinton get charged. You are guaranteeing that individuals like Joe Biden get charged and indicted. I mean, why ever stop? Why would you ever stop? Okay? So this is the breaking news. Trump is expected to be arrested in Manhattan next week. Former president slams Biden and Dems after Manhattan grand jury voted to indict. Over Stormy Daniels' witch hunt will backfire. So Donald Trump is expected to be arrested next week. Buckle up, baby. Holy smokes. Buckle up. So this is what the breaking news is. Molly Hemingway is somebody who's wonderful. We really like Molly. She is the editor of The Federalist. She is a spectacular individual, a committed parent, and somebody who really speaks a lot of truth in these moments. Molly Hemingway was on Fox just seconds ago making such a great point. I was like, grab that. We have to show that to the sweet, beautiful people here. You got to hear Molly Hemingway's take on this. A clairvoyant, common sense, and perfect as ever.
Well, it's a very dark day. One of the things that we cared about in this country for a very long time was to be a nation ruled by law and not by men. This ushers in what will probably be a very dark era of political persecution and prosecution, the type that we normally associate with the Soviet Union or with banana republics. You know, during the Stalin era, it was common to say, show me the man and I'll find you the crime. It didn't matter, you know, whether someone had broken any law. They would figure out a way to charge and convict them of that for political opponents. And you see this all the time in third world countries where political opponents who are deemed a threat to the current regime are charged with crimes. This is not good for this country. It is very sad. You know, in Washington and D.C., these are towns consumed, really obsessed with hatred for President Trump and the movement that he ushered in. Many Americans of all sorts of different political persuasions love this country. We want to be ruled by law. We don't want to see this type of political prosecution. And it is, you know, it is election interference, and it is something that is, you know, people who care about the country need to stand up and make sure that they let it be known that they do not support this type of political prosecution.
The news is coming in that Donald Trump will be traveling to New York via Florida soon, and that he wants to be arrested. That Donald Trump wants the handcuff treatment. He wants the photo, the mugshot. And Donald Trump has every right to want this. Again, Chris Rock is the one who screamed in Nancy Pelosi's face 2 weeks ago, you're going to turn him into Tupac, he's going to sell more records. What the hell are you thinking? I think that Democrats have a live grenade on this one. And Democrat, Obama voter, certainly someone who didn't vote for Donald Trump, Alan Dershowitz, but is inarguably one of the best legal minds of his generation. Alan Dershowitz was just on moments ago responding to this. Alan Dershowitz is one who said they do not have a case here. This is crazy. He's the most probably famous and accomplished criminal defense lawyer in American history. So Alan Dershowitz is up saying this about the unprecedented, corrupt, scam Trump indictment.
The point is you cannot use Michael Cohen as a witness. It's not ethical. You cannot stare a jury in the eye and say, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, I want you to believe this man, Michael Cohen. I'm putting him on the witness stand because I don't have any real doubts about his credibility. So either they will try to make the case around him without him, or they will run into ethical violations. Look, in 60 years of practicing criminal law, Greta, I have never seen a worse abuse of prosecutorial discretion since the McCarthy.
Here's the exception. Wait a second.
This is how bad this is.
That's pretty bad. I've never seen a worse example of prosecutorial discretion. Wow. Okay. Well, I hope that you have buckled up, ladies and gentlemen. And now we have Ron DeSantis's reaction from 6:55, just less than 10 minutes ago. Ron DeSantis has responded. Here's from the Governor DeSantis account. The weaponization of the legal system to advance a political agenda turns the rule of law on its head. It is un-American. The Soros-backed Manhattan District Attorney has consistently bent the law to downgrade felonies and to excuse criminal misconduct, yet now he stretches the law to target political opponents. Florida will not assist in an extradition request given the questionable circumstances that issue with the Soros-backed Manhattan prosecutor and his political agenda. Yikes. That is actually breaking news right there. That's actually breaking news. So there's a lot of people in Trump's camp who've been calling for, like, why is Ron DeSantis organizing with New York to kick Trump out of Florida? Well, here's Ron DeSantis. Florida will not, and this is rocketing around the internet right now, assist in an extradition request given the questionable circumstances. Yikes. So are you going to have like a federalism standoff here? Is that what you're going to get? You're going to get like a federalism standoff, like state versus state? We're going to start a new civil war? Is that what's going to happen here? Holy smokes. Holy cannoli. Again, ladies and gentlemen, this is all breaking news. This is all crazy. Elon Musk tweeting a few weeks ago, 2 weeks ago, if this happens, Trump will be reelected in a landslide victory. This was Elon Musk's take from a couple of weeks ago when this news first broke. Wow. So there you go. Once again, how will this play out? Well, it's very interesting. Jonathan Turley making the case that maybe Trump could pardon himself when he becomes president again.
Special counsel has a unique schedule problem. The Department of Justice takes the view that, I think the incorrect view, that you can't indict a sitting president, which means if they're going to indict Donald Trump, they better do it before he gets elected again. But that doesn't give them a lot of runway to take off this particular case. But then the election becomes a very odd debate because a president, in my view, can give himself a pardon. And so the election could come down to how people feel about a self-pardon. Donald Trump could run in part on saying, I'm going to pardon myself and go after the deep state.
That is.
I'm going to pardon myself. Could Donald Trump have a pocket pardon already? I'm going to pardon myself. That's Jonathan Turley, one of the best legal minds of our time. Ukraine is collapsing, says DC Drano. Banks are collapsing. Record inflation, unaffordable homes. Terrorism, killing Christian children. What do you want to do to distract the country? Indict President Trump. There you go. Indict President Trump. Got it. Make sure that screaming lib has something to talk about. Man, I don't think they know what they're doing here. I really don't. I think that like there are people on the left. There are people on the left who are commenting on this. People like Van Jones who are saying, why are you doing this? This is not smart. What are you going to open up here for us? Right now on Fox News, they're saying, why isn't Hillary Clinton in prison? That's the number one thing that's being said on Fox. Okay, so you're going to indict someone in politics. Why is Hillary Clinton?
When Hillary Clinton created the Russia collusion hoax by inventing that fake dossier, which never was prosecuted as a campaign crime, people said as the Russia collusion hoax unfolded that we have to wait for the facts. That awakened an entire country to how politicized the Department of Justice had become and how we actually don't have to wait for them to go for hours and months and years on their political prosecutions, as they've done at the federal level, the state level, and now the local level.
So a very, very great point there. I mean, it's coming in fast here, ladies and gentlemen. Fast and furious. So what have we learned in the last hour of being live? Well, we've learned that the GOP messaging on this is rightfully going to be that this is election interference and that they are going to go directly after Alvin Bragg. And that this is going to now be priority number one. Jim Jordan has said that this is absolutely outrageous. The number 3 in the House, Elise Stefanik, has called this a scam. Multiple people are now calling for Joe Biden's indictment, Hillary Clinton's indictment. Why aren't these people in jail? If this was about law and order, why isn't Hillary Clinton breaking rocks in a prison yard right now? Well, this has nothing to do with that. This has everything to do with them trying to literally manufacture a charge in order to put an innocent man in prison. And they've been lying to their base. There's a single person who actually wants this to happen and has been lied to, Munchausen by proxy, for the last 8 straight years. There is one person that this indictment is meant to appease, because this indictment is, of course, going to fail so very, very miserably. A live shot, ladies and gentlemen, of every single juror on this grand jury.
Through all of that opposition, Donald J. Trump is now President of the United States. President Obama.
Yep, that's about it. What else you got? That's about it. Donald Trump and his family, for that matter, has compared this to what happens in communist dictatorships. They are right. Donald Trump has said that he's going to continue to fight. Donald Trump has said through intermediaries that he intends on flying up to New York himself and getting handcuffed. And some of the biggest names on the left are saying what you're going to do is you're going to turn him to Tupac. By arresting him on these fake charges, you're going to make him more popular. Maybe that's the end game here. We're not sure. I certainly am not. But maybe that is the plan. Maybe they want Donald Trump to be the nominee. Maybe they think that Donald Trump is the most beatable. Well, they thought that in 2016. How'd that turn out? There's an article inside the Washington Post. It's so glorious. It's still up, and I love it. It says, it's from Election Day, November 9, 2016. Donald Trump's chances of becoming president are now officially 0. Those sons of bitches. Yeah, careful what you wish for, I suppose, is the ending statement on all of this. Careful what you wish for. We're going to let this develop. We'll cover it in the morning, and on Live in the Morning. But when you cross these Rubicons, you got to expect it to happen to you. You got to expect it to happen to your people. It's not a pretty era that we're entering into. These pendulums, they're going to swing, right? Trump broke the left. They could not believe. They couldn't handle it. They'd been psychologically conditioned and abused for so long that they were ascendant, that they were the ones who were going to control America, that the Obama coalition couldn't be broken. And then they had those little fragile psyches, those little fragile brains that are like a Fabergé egg, cotton candy, snapped in half by Donald Trump. And that broke them. And they'll never return. And now what you're seeing is they're agents of chaos throughout government that will break every law, impeach every person, bring every fake case against Donald Trump, rob him of a first term, which is exactly what they did, on lies. And here's just one more lie. So the indictment just essentially means that Donald Trump gets to be charged with this. It doesn't mean that Donald Trump's guilty of this at all. It just means they get to bring the case and lose the case gloriously. But here you go, another historic first. You'll create the most acquitted president once more in American history. Give Donald Trump one of those, famous newspaper shots, right? Acquitted. So, what are we doing now? We going to indict all the Democrats? I guess that's it, right? That's the next step. Do you agree? Let me know in the comment section. Do you support us? Please follow the channel. Please do us a huge favor and subscribe to the podcast. Go into your podcast app and subscribe to The Benny Show. That really helps us out because we are looking to create a universe here where I can reach you and where we can reach you with breaking news, and we will give you the straight dish. We did this entire show. Live. Boom, bang, 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 bang. The whole thing live. We'll do it live. All those clips, everything we were showing you, it just happened. Like the second it happened, we got it up for you. We are a show, we're built different on this show, on The Benny Show. And so we thank you. We do it for you. We want to make sure that you are intelligent and informed about what's going on around the world, even if it's pretty sick stuff like this. You got to know. You got to be smart, and we got to be smarter than the left. So let's continue. Remember, the victory is ours. We shall win. We just got to keep marching. The Benny Battalion. Benny Brigade. One of them. We're going to make t-shirts. We'll decide one of these days. How do you organize your life? God, family, country. That's why we do this show. That's why we do this program. If you support us, please like, subscribe to the podcast. We love all of you. We shall see you in the morning with more breaking news. My name is Benny Johnson. This is a special breaking edition, Donald Trump indictment edition of The Benny Show. See ya.